Okay, dear Dhamma friends, we are coming to the next item of this program. So that is the discussing a particular sutta, and these days we are discussing SatiSampajanna Sutta, which is available in Anguttara Nikaya, 8th Nipata, and it is quite interesting sutta because it has taken a different approach. Typical approach is Sila Samadhi Panya, where we start with morality and then leads towards the concentration, and based on the concentration one may be developing wisdom. But anyway, there's a kind of a cyclic process. The developed wisdom may further helps to develop morality, and morality further helps to develop wisdom and concentration. So likewise there are interrelationships. Now in this SatiSampajanna Sutta, Buddha has taken a different approach, and he says that if one develops mindfulness and he combines mindfulness with clear comprehension, and that actually leads to develop moral shame and moral dread. Because you can see that as you develop mindfulness, your mind becomes fairly sensitive and somewhat careful about what is really going on, and your self-awareness is going to be improved, and as a result you feel what is good and what is wrong, and what is correct and what is wrong, what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. So that sort of awareness, self-awareness, going to be aroused, and on top of that you have the clear comprehension. You can see things very clearly, distinctly, so that actually builds up as you develop clear comprehension, sampajanna. Say for example, you are paying attention to the breath. So at the beginning you know only in breath and out breath, but you don't stop there. Rather you further refine that knowledge so that you can even see or even recognize some subtle details. Say whether the in-breath is long or short, whether it is cool or warm. Likewise, you are inquiring some subtle aspects of the breath, so that in turn refines your mindfulness, refines your clear comprehension, so that you can see some very minute details of any phenomena. So this is a skill that we are developing in the mind. So we are using breath as a tool to develop this. So assume that you are in a position to recognize very subtle aspects of breath. So breath itself is a subtle phenomena, and now you are able to recognize very subtle aspects of the breath. So that indicates your mindfulness has quite sharpened, and again clear comprehension has certainly improved. So with such improved mindfulness, improved clear comprehension, you see whenever there is a task on hand, so you may check whether it is suitable to do, is it appropriate to do, so is it worth to do. So likewise kind of a retrospection, kind of a checking out happens. So therefore Buddha mentioned it's a improvement of the morality. So you are improving moral dread and moral fear, and so that further leads to restrainment of the faculties. Because you will understand, if you are misusing the faculties, if you are not guarding the faculties, then again the mind becomes somewhat corrupted, mind becomes restless, mind starts to agitate, and mind starts to regret. So all these things happens because you are not guarding your senses. Then you feel it, you understand, so I didn't guard my senses, I spent some time unnecessarily, I watched certain things which is not suitable. So likewise your mind starts to show it, your mindfulness starts to show it, indicate it, that how you need to guard your senses. So this guarding of senses have their roots, have their causes. So that is the moral dread and moral shame. So once you have restraint of the sense faculties, so that actually leads to further improve your sila, your morality. So you are now restraining your words, restraining your body, so that you are now getting into the sila practice, morality. It is not that you are trying to show off, rather you yourself understand the value of it. So once you are maintaining a moral conduct, moral values, so it gives you some happiness, kind of a what Buddha mentioned is a anavajja sukha, where you feel that you are a good person, you are worthy of something spiritual. So if you are not experiencing something spiritual, you may feel that I am worthy of it now. I was not that worthy some time back, but now I feel I am worthy. So I deserve it. So that sort of a positive atmosphere being developed in your mind. So with such positive atmosphere, you are now further improving your mindfulness, your wisdom and concentration. And then Buddha mentioned, so this sort of a behavior, this sort of atmosphere is quite conducive to develop concentration, because you have mindfulness, clear comprehension, and then the morality. So then the necessary causes are available to have the concentration. Actually, there are several steps in certain other suttas. Buddha mentions certain sub-steps where the morality leads to feel that you are worthy, that it is not making you regrettable, not agitating your mind, so that a kind of a little composed feeling is happening. So that leads to some sort of a tranquility. So once the mind and the body is tranquil, you feel happy. So once this happiness is available, so the mind concentrates. Sukhino chittang samadhyati. So once you feel comfortable, once your body feel comfortable, quite happy, composed, then it leads to develop the concentration. So then Buddha mentioned, once such concentration is available, now you are using it to examine, using it to closely investigate what is really going on in the present moment. Say, for example, you are keeping your attention on the body, and now various characteristics are going to be available. Constantly, your body is subject to various, say, vibrations, movements, hardness, roughness, cooling sensations, heating sensations. Likewise, there are so many processes available in the body. So as your mindfulness improve, as your self-awareness improve, so these subtle sensations become quite apparent. And you are readily available for them. So you are quite vigilant of them. So now you are having a good concentration. So again and again, when these subtle sensations are arising, so you are ready to observe them, because you are having a very good concentrated mind, collected mind. Now we are using that collected mind to closely examine what is really going on. So all these sensations, now we are examining, we are investigating. But we are not thinking, by the way. So that is also important. Sometimes people think that we have to think. Rather, we keep the mind quiet. Our mind is free from inner chatter. Mind is in a very calm position, but quite awakeful, quite vigilant, and your mind is well focused. With such focused, quiet mind, now you are examining what is really going on. So it may be various bodily sensations, various element characteristics, various, say, pleasurable feelings, various painful feelings, maybe various equanimous feelings. So all these things you are now observing. Now, once you are further improving that, even you can observe your mind. So what are the various mental constructs happening? How you add certain things to the picture? How you are sort of purposely adding certain things? How your mind is preoccupied? How you are sometimes acting with a biased attitude. So all these kind of things going to be revealed, or you become somewhat aware of these things, because slowly your self-awareness has improved, and that actually helps to look at your mind. It naturally happens. You don't need to practice separately. Rather, the Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, as you are developing, so it produces some sort of a potential to look at your mind. Now you are watching the mind. So you start it kind of a, say, progressive manner. So you start with Kayanupassana, then you are further developing towards the Vedananupassana, and you may be spending whatever the time, and then slowly you start to watch your mind. You feel various thoughts, various moods, various defilements, and how you are caught up with them. So this actually gives some idea about the various phenomena. It may be bodily phenomena, it may be various feelings, it may be various mental objects, thoughts. So all this actually gives you some understanding about the realities. So how things are behaving, what is their nature. So this actually gives you a lot of knowledge. So this is your experiential knowledge. It is not that you borrow from a book, rather you yourself have observed. Again and again you have observed the very nature of bodily phenomena and the very nature of various feelings. And again you are observing the various minds. Say it is lustful mind, angry mind, desirous mind, jealous mind. So whatever it is, so you are able to observe them. So more and more you become kind of an mindful observer, a silent, distant observer. So that further gives you a better understanding about all these phenomena. They all have sort of the nature to change. They never stay as it is. They're constantly subject to change. And they have the nature to arise and they have the nature to pass away. They are very transient, completely impermanent, and constantly subject to this sort of impermanent behavior, transient behavior. So you can't expect lasting happiness from this sort of a process. So it becomes quite unsatisfactory, suffering. And again, this whole process is beyond your control. It doesn't behave as you wish. It is non-governable. So you feel that the whole process is free from any core. There is nothing substantial internally. So everything happens in a cause and effect relationship. So this actually leads to some sort of a disenchantment. Previously you thought there's a person, there's a being, there is a soul, there is something important, there is something valuable. So that's why you hold it. But with the practice now you understand there is nothing there, nothing substantial. Everything is like a flux. Everything changes and everything is very transient and you never know what's going to happen. So it's very vulnerable. So likewise for this sort of extremely transient, vulnerable, unsatisfactory, non-governable process, why am I calling it as mine? Why am I holding it? Is it necessary to grasp it? Can I call it as me or mine or myself? So likewise your mind starts to question. Your inner sort of awareness, inner awakening happens and it will start to question you as you develop various insights. So this actually leads to disenchantment and sort of relinquishment and dispassion. So now things are available, but mind is not that interested. Say for example, you are in the walking path and you do walking up and down and there may be various sights, but mind is not interested in going after them. Similarly, you may hear various sounds, but mind does not go and get involved with them. So mind likes to stay alone. There may be various incense, but still mind is not that interested of possessing them, enjoying them. And there may be various, say, tastes. You may feel it, but mind is not involved with it. And mind doesn't want to really grasp them. Similarly, there may be various sensations. If you take the walking path, you may, as you walk, you may feel various sensations. Hardness, roughness, softness, all these different sensations. They are there, but mind, unlike previously, mind is not interested of going and observing them. Rather, mind likes to stay alone, quite unattached, detached, or sort of independent. All these sensory impingements are happening, but mind is not bothered. Mind is not sort of shaken. Mind doesn't start to talk. Inner chatter doesn't start to happen. Rather, mind is in its own sort of a island, in a freedom, And that is where slowly you will understand there is a possibility of such freedom. There's a possibility that it is not a must to have an object for the mind. It is not a must to have some sort of thought in the mind. Mind can stay alone. Mind has its own capacity to be free without holding to anything, without attaching to anything. So likewise, as you develop mindfulness, as you develop Satipatthana, there Buddha mentioned, so now the yogi uses this body, feelings, mind further to develop mindfulness. In order to develop mindfulness, further to refine all these insights and to sort of culminate them and to sort of really own them, in the sense that those insights that become more and more prominent, more and more powerful, and this liberation of the mind, the freedom of the mind, become more and more longer. Previously you may be experiencing it for a short while, but after some time you feel it. So at the beginning you don't feel anything at all, but some sort of a jerk, some sort of a difference might be noticed. But as you develop your practice again and again, probably you may notice that there is something going on. Even though these all sensory impingements are happening, mind is not interested of going after them. Mind is not interested of talking about them, welcoming them, exaggerating them, making a story out of them, ruminating about them, proliferating about them. Rather, mind likes to stay quiet. Mind likes to stay independent. Mind likes to stay free. Mind likes to enjoy the stillness. Mind likes to stay in a very restful position. So likewise, you, the yogi, start to feel it. As the yogi start to feel it, then you are changing the track. We are changing the attitude, that now you promote that sort of a freedom. Now you promote that sort of a wisdom. So there Buddha mentioned in certain other suttas that one develops various bojjhangas, awakening factors, in a more relaxed attitude, with more dispassionate attitude, and being in the cessation, enjoying in a cessation. And then whatever happens, so the nature is to relinquish. The mind is ready to relinquish, rather than holding, rather than grasping, rather than clinging. The attitude is to relinquish, just to give it up, just to letting go. So this sort of attitude is prevailing now. This dominant attitude is to letting go. So whenever some sort of a clinging happens because of some unmindful situation, so the mind is ready to simply give it up. So this letting go happens naturally. You are not purposely, forcefully letting go, giving up, but rather an attitude is developed in the mind that holding, grasping is burdensome. It is troublesome. So it is sort of heavy to the mind. So rather letting go, just relinquishment, maintaining a free mind, unassociated mind, unattached mind, unbounded mind is quite free, quite lighter. So this is the yogi is now improving. So this is what Buddha mentioned in the SatiSampajanna Sutta. So it's a kind of a gradual process. It's very much like a step-by-step process. And again, it's a cause and effect relationship Buddha mentions here. It is not that someone is blessing you or someone is giving you some different power. Rather, you yourself is practicing diligently. And that practice is helping you to further develop, to further maintain the sort of the understanding, the insights. So likewise, it's a very practical as well as causal relationship Buddha mentioned in this SatiSampajanna Sutta. And the important thing is one can start using mindfulness. That you don't need to sort of spend time in quick sort of perfecting your sila. Rather, you start your mindfulness practice. So the mindfulness practice itself help to refine your sila, improve your sila. So they help each other. And that is what actually Buddha mentioned here. So therefore, this is a very interesting sutta where one starts with meditation, one starts with mindfulness practice. Slowly the clear comprehension combines, and that helps to understand the drawbacks in one's behavior so that one is refining that behavior. One becomes a virtuous person, and that helps to develop concentration. That concentration being used to further investigate various phenomena, the present phenomena, and that helps to develop wisdom, and that developed wisdom helps to free the mind. So this freedom again is not kind of a permanent freedom. Again and again mind may go and attach because of the power of defilements, hindrances, influxes. So again and again you have to apply wisdom, apply mindfulness, and you have to maintain kind of a path. You have to develop a path. So that is where the Noble Eightfold Path come into the picture, where you have a kind of a morality to establish on, so that becomes like a foundation. And while being there, you are further developing or sort of maintaining the clarity of mind. So it is a kind of a very relaxed clarity of mind. It is not extremely concentrated at this level. And at the same time, you are developing wisdom. So even very refined attachments, very subtle defilements become evident to the yogi. So this kind of a very gradual process is explained in this SatiSampajanna Sutta. So with that, actually, I like to conclude SatiSampajanna Sutta discussion. And now I open the session for questions.
I'm sorry, Bhante. There's currently 4 questions. Just before I do that, I have a quick announcement. We've finalized the 4-day back-to-back retreat style program. That's starting from the 2nd of April to the 5th of April during the Easter public holiday or the Easter weekend. The program will be conducted online through Zoom, and there'll be also some local groups doing the retreat as well in like a physical location. Nirupa will be handling the Zoom session. I don't think everyone knows who Nirupa is, so if you're there, you can just identify yourself. I'll put another spotlight here. There you go.
Yeah, I am ready to do that now. I'm getting preparation now.
Okay, good. Thank you. So other than that, so we plan to start the online program after lunch. That's Australia time, or the morning in Sri Lankan time, and then we'll continue until evening. There'll also be an English Dhamma sermon, which is about 30 minutes, and a 1-hour question and answer session, which will be at sort of like a similar timing to this program. So please keep those days free. So that's the 2nd of April to the 5th of April. And we'll send full program details on an email probably in the next week. Okay. With that, we'll go to question number 1. This is general question. Dear Bhante, I had a continuous practice for months when this program started, and much merits for the valuable service. I found being mindful on the breath and the walking process are very interesting and rewarding. I have written several reflection reports and received excellent feedback from Bhante. Like many other participants, I was enthusiastic and keen on the practice and tried to find time whenever I could. Sometimes I woke up at 4 a.m. and meditated 2 hours before going to work. Once the practice became natural and effortless, I observed that the enthusiasm and fulfilling nature started to fade away. I recall a bit that Bhante had warned about this situation some time back. I thought mindfulness practice will be different than anything else in this life, and it will be like a solid rock, energizing and nourishing us all the time. The rewards started fading away, and the keenness and enthusiasm dropped, and sometimes I feel indifferent if I have practiced or not. With all respect, this is not a comparison, but there are similar experiences in life, like falling in love, having children for the first time, migrating to Australia. They all happen with a big bang and fade away to something indifferent after some time. I don't know if this is a problem with my practice or it is the way mindfulness works. Much praise for Bhante's advice. With metta, that's the end.
Yeah, there are certain similarities, I agree. Say, for example, if you go for a samadhi, for example. So the first time as you experience samadhi, it is very wonderful. It's a very enjoyable experience. But again and again, once you are experiencing it, it becomes some sort of a natural experience, and you are not that really going to some very high level of enjoyment, because it becomes something natural. And it is necessary actually. See, that is what is called maturity. So for example, if you consider the samatha meditation, so when compared to first jhana, the second jhana is more matured, but it is with less, agitation. So vitakka vichara has stopped, so the mind movement has fairly stopped, and mind becomes fairly stable. But the rapture, happiness is available in the second jhana. But once it goes to the third jhana, so this rapture faded away. Now you are simply composed. So you can see the composure is more mature kind of a situation rather than the rupture. And when you go to the fourth jhana, so then rupture disappeared and happiness also disappeared, and the mind become equanimous. So you can see this path is, so the equanimity becomes more mature level than the rupture or even the happiness. So as you can see, this is even common in the vipassana practice. So at the first stages, there could be some sort of a happiness, some sort of a, pleasure. But as you develop, it grow towards the vipassana, grow towards the upekkha, equanimity. So equanimity become more predominant and noticeable. And it does not mean that you can't enjoy anything else and you can't be happy or something like that. You can actually become happy. You feel lighter and your mind become more lighter. But as you practice, when you are engaged in your practice, more and more sort of composed attitude, tranquil attitude, equanimous attitude going to be developed. So therefore, I can say that is how it is happening. So more and more, your whole life becomes somewhat composed, somewhat calm, and you can bear things. Mind becomes stable, still, and these are the aspects that Buddha mentioned as one develops the practice. And that's a very beautiful simile Buddha mentioned. So typically, the typical nature of the mind is like the beach. So if you consider the beach, so there is a big waves are coming and it hitting the various stones, and it makes a lot of noise, and a lot of noise is there. But as you go a little further into the sea, then still waves are there, but little noise. But as you go further to the deep sea, now even little noise, and again the ocean becomes fairly calm. But as you go even deeper, even far to the deep ocean, it is completely still, but extremely deep. So that is similar that Buddha mentioned. So this more the ones vipassana is growing, now we can say the arahant's mind is so peaceful, and that is how Buddha mentioned, it is so peaceful but extremely deep. It is completely still, completely stable, but extremely deep. So this is how actually the practice is growing. So you can understand it is in that manner.
Yeah. Question number 2 of 4, mindful sitting. Dear Venerable Sir, my sitting practice is being mindful on breathing. I start focusing on the body, and it's quite easy to shift to breath after a few minutes and observe the differences of in-breath and out-breath. As Venerable Sir explained in the Dhamma talks, after I start observing the full breath, it starts to become subtle and starts fading. Finally, reduces to a pulse which is not observable, When I'm in this spacious space with a relaxed and enjoyable mood, thoughts start to arise. If I don't explore the thoughts and be composed on my observation, they go away. However, after some time, I slowly get carried away by a thought, and when I realize that this has happened and I am drifted, the focus or the mind bounces back to the spacious space again. This happens multiple times. I know I am drifting away, and I know I am bouncing back. I'm not doing anything specific, but knowing and observing only. This happens until the end of the session, lasts about 30 minutes this happens until the end of the session, last 30 minutes of the sitting practice. Any guidance from the Venerable Sir is highly appreciated. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually, this is quite natural, because you can see typically what happens is we become driven by the experience. We don't know that something is going on. We simply become a victim of the experience. We are being driven by the experience. But as you develop mindfulness, we are able to sort of come out of the experience and observe the experience. I am going on something. My mind has drifted. My mind has now come back. My mind has become lustful. My mind has become angry. So this is something different. So you are able to look at the mind objectively. You are not the complete victim of it. Rather, you are able to come out of it and observe it. So this is quite interesting and quite important. And as you further and further develop like this, so you are able to recognize these agitated states at its early stage. So currently you may be experiencing it, or you are able to be aware of it after some time. So at that time, already the mind has become agitated. Already mind become sort of angry. You already sort of deluded. But now only you are able to disengage and now looking at it. But as you further develop, so the ability to quickly establish yourself in mindfulness, the ability to objectively look at what is going on, become more improved, and you are able to do it at its very early stages. Say, for example, in the Dhammanupassana section, just to give you the Buddha's advice, say, for example, Buddha mentioned, when the mind is lustful, you are aware the mind is lustful. When the mind is free from lust, you are aware the mind is free from lust. So this is the first stages. But as you are developing, so you are able to be aware the mind is free from lust. And while being aware of that, then Buddha mentioned, now previously not available lust is now arising. Now new lust is arising in the mind, or new anger is arising in the mind, whatever it is. So new defilement, new anger, whatever, so it is arising. So you are able to even see this arising side. So that means you are fully aware of the mind, and you are able to recognize, okay, now there is something going on. There is anger arising. There is lust arising. There is jealousy arising. There is some sort of resistance arising. So likewise, you are able to look at it. So since you are objectively looking at it, so you are not promoting it. You are not become a sort of a helpless, poor victim of it. Rather, you are able to look at it, observe it, and you are not promoting it. Rather, you simply allow it to fade away, because you are in a kind of an island, and this actually flowing, and you simply allow it to flow, allow it to disappear, allow it to fade away, and again your mind calms down. So this is how Buddha explains it. So this actually you can experience as you develop mindfulness, and you are in the correct track. So don't worry, it may take time actually, nothing to worry that it may not happen immediately. But as you are developing, so more and more your mind become mindful, and awareness improves, and you are able to recognize all these at its very early stages.
Question number 3 or 5. This is a general question. Dear Bhante, can you explain about moral shame and how it affects the practice? After starting mindfulness practice, my day-to-day conduct has changed a lot. I seem to be saying less lies, avoiding killing even by mistake, for example, even ants, and not going to drinking parties, etc. If I happen to say a lie for some reason, I recall it again and again and feel ashamed. Sometimes, and very rarely, I get carried away and drink a beer with work colleagues, and I feel down and impure for days. I feel ashamed to practice mindfulness. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually, so this is what actually Buddha mentioned here. So the mindfulness practice helps you to develop moral shame and moral dread. So that is why. So let me share that again. So the statement here, when there is mindfulness and clear comprehension, for one possessing mindfulness and clear comprehension, the sense of moral shame and moral dread possesses their proximate cause. So the moral dread and moral shame happens because the proximate cause is available for that. So what is the proximate cause? So that is the mindfulness and clear comprehension. So therefore, it is evident that the Buddha's recipe is working. So the Dhamma is still available, that when you are developing mindfulness, clear comprehension, so now your mind sort of telling you, so it is not a good thing, that you did something which is not useful to you, it is not beneficial to you, it is harmful to you. So likewise, it is showing you. Now you have a choice, by the way. Previously, you are simply driven by it. You are a victim. But now, mindfulness is showing you, okay, there are two paths. Either you can drink, either you can have a beer, or you can stop it. You can let it go. You can avoid it. So what is the choice? So now, at least you have a choice. You are not kind of addicted to it. You are not driven by it. So rather, you have a choice. So you can, but it is not nice to say that you can mindfully drink, mindfully take a beer. Point is, if you mindfully drink, you can't drink it for a long time. Because again and again, mind tell you, you can't do it, you should not do it, it is not good. You should develop mindfulness. Why are you developing sort of unmindfulness by drinking? Because this drinking, this alcohol makes the mind further unmindful. So you are now purposely make the mind unmindful, and it completely contradicts with what you are trying to do. So you are trying hard to develop mindfulness, and by drinking you are promoting unmindfulness. You become insane. So it is kind of contradicting. So again and again your mind show this error. Mind will show this drawback, the shortcoming. So one day you will stop it. So it's not a difficult thing, because you are quite confident about yourself. I can do it, and you will do it. You will stop it altogether. So therefore it is sometimes mentioned, if you establish mindfulness, you can't do something wrong for a long time. Sati dovariko bhikkave ariya savako savajjang pajahati anavajjam bhaveti. So as the mindfulness has established, so you recognize, okay, these are the wholesome deeds, these are the unwholesome deeds. These are the beneficial deeds, these are the harmful deeds. So you get this clarity, you get this able to distinguish. Now you have a choice. So don't therefore simply driven by it, rather take the correct choice. So, and with that, as you develop mindfulness, as you develop confidence, you can get the correct decision. You can completely stop it. So that is how it works. So I hope that you may have the courage to stop it. So with that, I can go to the next question.
Question number 4 of 6. This is a general question. Venerable Bhante, when I am on my own and calm, I can see emotions and perceptions objectively. Similarly, but a bit more prominently, certain body parts of my own, like hair or teeth, or seeing an external animal like a bird, leads to a perception that it's merely a physical object with no perception that it is living, that it is a living being, let alone that it's a bird per se. In other words, in this moment, I only pick up the signal that this is an object or a grey flying object. However, When I'm agitated, emotions overwhelm. How should I proceed in practice? Much merit. That's the end.
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question. So as you closely observe your mind, so this is how it happens. I mean, basically, so you recognize some sort of, say, your eyes are open and the light is available and there is some person or there is kind of an object, and then kind of awareness happen. Then the eye consciousness happen. Now it strikes, okay, now the contact happens, and then you feel something. As you feel, you recognize, okay, this is that. So it actually generates some sort of a mental image. So to this mental image, we are giving a name with that pre-stored data. So it's like so you are quickly accessing that data and you are matching that data, and now you say, okay, this is that. And assume that previous data have some sort of a history. So you observe someone and that particular, attached to that particular person, there are so much of history, and assume that it's a bad history. So you don't like it. So immediately you become preoccupied. Immediately now your mind filled with all of those perceptions. Wrong, maybe, I mean, can't say wrong, but whatever the perceptions now come into the picture. Now you are experiencing this whole thing with that preconceived ideas. Now you are sort of inserting all these previous experiences into the picture. In a way, we are deforming the whole experience. So you can see how tricky our mind, or how complicating the whole thing. So we simply have seen something, but immediately our mind remembers and points out to something previous experiences, previous histories, our perceptions, and those are now taken to the picture. Now the whole experience being colored by this whole thing. Now Buddha helps us to see this. So the mindfulness practice, vipassana practice, helps us to see how we are coloring, how we are adding, how we are constructing. And that is how I sometimes mention, so whenever we go through any experience, there is, to this particular experience, there is a kind of a objective influence coming from the object, coming from that sight, coming from that sound, coming from that sense, this say smell. So likewise from the object side, there's a kind of an influence. But on the other hand, so that we have a kind of a subjective influence as well. From our own side, we are adding our own perceptions, our own likes and dislikes, our own cultural upbringing. All these things we are adding. So that is the subjective influence. So that is how we are actually experiencing. So in a way, we are coloring the experience. We are sort of making a biased experience. So as we are able to see this correct picture, now we are able to somewhat disentangle this whole process, somewhat see it clearly, what is really going on in the mind. So this is why Buddha mentioned about the 5 aggregates. So you are able to analyze this experience according to 5 aggregates. So what is the material aspect of this whole experience? So what is the perception aggregate of this whole experience? What is the feeling aggregate of whole experience? And where my all, say, volitions and various mental constructs, those, where that subjective aspects are there. And where this all conscious, cognition aspect is there. So likewise, Buddha helps us to see the picture clearly by doing some sort of analysis according to the 5 aggregates. Now, more and more you are able to recognize it, more and more you are able to properly understand what is really going on in the mind. Now you are able to unentangle the whole experience. Rather than you become a victim to the experience, now you are able to see clearly. Okay, this is what is going on. I don't need to be completely a victim of this whole experience. There is like this kind of components are there. These kind of contributions are happening from different components, different aggregates. So why am I making it as a self? Why am I consider it as me? consider it as I. So likewise, a very deep understanding going to happen, and this is well explained in Satipatthana Sutta in the Dhammanupassana section. And recently, actually, nowadays we are conducting Satipatthana Sutta, and probably you can listen to Satipatthana Sutta series also. So this Dhammanupassana section in the aggregate section, so Buddha explained this very clearly, how one can analyze one's experience according to 5 aggregates, so that we are not sort of becoming a victim of this whole experience. Yeah.
Question number 5 of 7. It's a general question. The one who knows, the observer, is the vijnana or consciousness or awareness. Or awareness. Thank you, Bhante Metta.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah, I hope this is clear. The one who knows, the observer, is this vijnana, consciousness, or awareness? Thank you, Bhante Metta.
Yeah. None of them. So basically, this is a very, very interesting part again. Now, if you refer Kalakarama Sutta, so it's a very, very profound sutta. So there Buddha very beautifully mentioned. So there is no experiencer. So that very thing is sort of denied. There is no experiencer. But there is sort of an experience, that's all. So there is just seeing is there, but there is no seer. S-E-E-R. There is no seer. Or else, the listening is there is no listener. Only the listening that what you call action is there, but there is no listener. So likewise, all this cognition happens, this knowing part happens, but there is no cognizer. So there are various thoughts are happening, but there is no thinker. There's a beautiful book by Mark Epstein, Thoughts Without a Thinker. So there are thoughts, but there is no thinker. So it's a very interesting subject actually we are talking. So it's very psychological in a way, and Buddhist psychology we can say. So various various experiences. Say from your eyes you are seeing, from your ears you are hearing, from your nose, tongue, body you are sensing. At the same time, you are from your mind you are cognizing. But there is no person. So this is where the sunyata, the deeper understanding about the sunyata, this what we call emptiness, non-self, is coming to the picture. So this is where Buddha's knowledge is so profound, where the experiences are there, but there is no experiencer. So, but we feel that I am feeling, I am seeing, I am listening. So that is because of our ignorance. So this ignorance that we need to penetrate. So this, till we have this ignorance, and sometimes called as asmimana, the self-view, there is I, there is me. So likewise, some sort of as you mentioned, there is a kind of an observer, experiencer. So that is actually there because of our ignorance. So this is what we need to slowly penetrate, slowly remove. And so let's try to do that. It's not easy, but it's actually the more deeper aspects of the Dhamma, we can say.
Question number, I think this is 6 of 7. Mindful sitting. Bhante, how far can we go deep in practice with being mindful on the postures as an alternative to breath? I tend to go naturally to the posture when I sit these days, but I want to focus on the breath, which I've learned in the Dhamma talks and scriptures. That's the end of the question.
Actually, you can use both. So, say time to time, you can assume that you are starting with being mindful about the posture, and assume now your mind is quite settled. Now you can further improve your mindfulness by paying attention to the breath. So you are refining your mindfulness. Say the posture helps you to calm down, become tranquil, compose yourself. And now you need to further refine your mindfulness. Now you are using a bodily process like breathing to refine your mindfulness. And now you are further investigating the breath. Now you are improving the investigation factor, Dhammavichaya. So likewise, these tools actually help each other. Assume now, as you are developing Anapanasati, investigating about the breath, and you are able to recognize whether it is long, short, say warm, cool, etc. So that indicates your mindfulness has sharpened, and it is further improving, and clear comprehension improving. All the necessary factors are now improving. And sometimes again you might have to go to the posture. Say for example, your mind again becomes somewhat agitated. Now you have to stop analyzing. You need to stop investigation. Rather you got to calm down. You need to go to you need to tranquil yourself. Now probably you drop Anapanasati. You again come to the posture. So therefore, so it's a kind of it's like using tools. You are again and again you are being aware of the state of the mind. Accordingly, you take the correct tool.
Question number 7. I think this is the last one. General question. Most Venerable Bhante, I can understand the moral shame you explained regarding enjoying a drink. But is the same applicable if one was to watch a harmless family movie at the end of a hard day's work and not get embroiled in it, i.e. ditte mattam? Currently there is the only indulgence in a prolonged period of COVID lockdown, but should one feel moral shame or stop such activities too? Most grateful for your guidance. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, I think it's very, it is practically you have to do in the sense that if you immediately cut off everything, so it is, I don't think it is wise, because as you see that you need to sort of maintain or sort of balance the living. So you have to maintain a family, you have maybe kids, and you have to be with them. You have to sort of play with them. You have to enjoy with them. So you have to balance your life in a way. So if you go to a complete extreme, you are not talking with them, you are not playing with them, you are not sort of looking the movie with them. So likewise, you are going to the other extreme. On the other hand, say if you are able to balance it, so you do the practice as well. But for the sake of being with your children and to give a good company, to give some safety to them, so you have to be with them. So it is a kind of balancing. So therefore, I feel so it is not that you are sort of addicted to the films. You are not addicted to this sort of enjoyment, but you are doing it. You enjoy it, but you are assume that after this looking at the film, there could be some sort of a rumination in the mind, so that you can see actually. But if you are talented enough, if you are skillful enough, you can quickly remove it. Say for example, you are watching a movie, you are watching a news item. So assume that nowadays, every day, whatever the news, it starts to agitate. If you watch Sri Lankan news, if you watch Myanmar news, wherever, irrespective of the country, everywhere, it causes to agitate the mind. But sometimes we have to watch so that we become updated. But at the same time, your agitated mind has to be calmed down. So that is where you are again applying your mindfulness practice. Again, you go to the walking session, and someone can say it's like you are washing it and again put into the mud, again washing it, again put into the mud. It's true, in a way true. But at the same time, it may not be difficult for a practitioner to wash it quickly. Previously, when your mindfulness is not that developed, it may take long time for you to calm down the mind. But as you develop mindfulness, calming down, establishing mindfulness may not take long time. So assume that you have watched a movie, watched a news item, now mind become agitated. Now assume that you are going to the walking path. Say within a couple of minutes, probably you are able to regain mindfulness. Again, you are able to establish mindfulness. Because you are fairly stable, your mind is fairly stable. You lost the stability because of that film, doesn't matter, but again you are able to re-establish. So I feel therefore, so one has to develop this stability of the mind irrespective of this sense impingement. So we have to guard the senses. That is also we have discussed. We have to guard the senses. We should not excessively agitate the mind. Assume that you are watching movies continuously. In the morning you watch a movie, in the evening you watch a movie, during the night you watch a movie. Then you are agitating the mind too much. But there you need to have sense restraint. There you need to guard the senses. But on the other hand, as you develop mindfulness, as you develop vipassana, even with these agitations, amidst these agitations, you can keep your mind unagitated. So that is the challenge in a way. So you can say there's a beautiful story happened to Nagasamala, Venerable Nagasamala during the Buddha's time. So he is going for village Pindapata, and he actually seen that there's a kind of a actress is performing at a sort of a junction. So the people have come there, all are, whistling and they are enjoying. There's an actress performing various dancing by enjoying the others. So this venerable monk, Venerable Nagasamala, going on in the Pindapata, arms round. And he also heard the sound and he stopped and see what is really going on. Now he saw this actress. Now he see this dancing girl. But the way he look at it is not the typical way of looking at it. He is not looking at it like in the enjoying attitude, but rather he saw in a different manner. He saw like because of this actress, because of this dancing girl, how much these people become further sort of entangled in the samsara, further sort of bounded to the samsara, how much they become deluded by this. So likewise, he contemplated in a different angle. Actually, that causes for him to become enlightened, to become completely free. So therefore, probably you can watch a movie from that attitude. You can become enlightened in that way.
That's a good plan, Bhante.
You can try now.
We had one more question come in. Question number 8. General question. Dear Swamin Wahanse, you mentioned about asmi mana. Is this a type of mana like comparison with metta? That's the end.
Yeah, asmi mana, definitely it has the comparison, because mana has 3 aspects. That is, you feel that you are equal to another person, you are below another person, or you are higher than the other person. So those 3 ways are there. That is a typical conceit. And on the other hand, this asmimana has more subtle aspect. So that is the feeling of I. There is I. There is me. So asmiti bhikkave manyita metang. So Buddha mentions, so the feeling of I is a kind of a, what you call as a manjana. What is the English term for that? It's a kind of a feeling, in a kind of a conceiving. The proper term is conceiving. It's a kind of a conceiving that there is I. That once you see a photo, you immediately see, oh, this is I. So likewise, these are very subtle defilements, and even an anagami has these asmimana. So the mana, the conceit, is the most really a very subtle defilement, and only the arahant who is free from asmimana, who is free from conceit. So if we can actually recognize when the conceit is arising in ourselves, say when we are sort of looking down another person, or we feel little sort of down because of someone else, so that mana, that conceit is somewhat gross, and we can recognize, so that we can avoid becoming a victim of that. But on the other hand, the operation of asmimana, the feeling of I, feeling of me, the feeling of that is sort of kind of a person, so that actually is a very subtle. And Buddha mentioned that if one develops what you call anicca sanya, so everywhere, say you see the impermanence, the transient nature. So that actually helps to remove asmimana. Or you are developing nippapancha. You are keeping your mind as much as possible free from proliferation, free from rumination. That also helps to remove asmimana. And on the other hand, one develops animitta, signless emptiness. So those kind of vipassana levels. So that also helps to remove asmimana. So it's in a way very deep vipassana. Actually, only helps to remove this asmimana. That is one of the subtlest defilement or samyojana, fetter in the mind. Yeah.
That was the last question, Bhante. Just before we finish up, just a small reminder. Please keep the 2nd to the 5th of April free for the retreat program that we're going to do. And we'll have the email come out this week giving details of it. With that, I'd like to finish the program. I'd like to thank Bhante for giving up valuable time for this program, and also to pass our merits and gratitude along with all the organizers, seen and unseen, people working behind the scenes to make this program work. Also people who participated, because without you, this program would not happen. So with that, I'd like to end the program. Thero Saranai.
Yeah, Thero Saranai.